list, isn't it? Yeah, I like the part about, shopping for your spouse before Christmas Eve, but that's okay. I want to do a quick survey as we start here. Who's fed up with Christmas shopping, at least? Christmas? Okay, Christmas. There was a few brave souls there, yeah. Who's caught up in the wonder of Christmas? Okay, a few more. Who's not there yet but remains hopeful? All right. The good news is it's only December the 20th. No matter where we located ourselves in that little survey, there is still time to let go of our limited expectations of what God can do. This is a time to listen to the yearning in our hearts, yearning for Christmas to be different than we expect it to be. Yearning that this Christmas we can be real with our family and friends and not get so caught up in other people's visions of what Christmas is all about. Yearning to believe that this story of Jesus' birth and angels singing and wise men visiting is really about God so loving the world that he would come among us through the birth of a baby boy in Bethlehem. Yearning, perhaps, this day for a wondrous encounter with God that simply blows us away, as described in this quote. Wonder is what takes your breath away and gives breath back again to you to breathe again, transformed. That kind of awe and wonder that can look like this picture. That's what I hope and pray for all of us this Christmas. And while we have her before us, I just want to reflect just for a minute about what we've been doing these last few weeks as we've reflected on our limiting expectations of God in our families and in our workplaces. And today we're going to talk about that in the local church. Have you ever been a part of a community that had limited expectations about what God could do through them and the power of Christ's Spirit? It's a very, very sad thing. The people spend much of their time talking about the good old days when. Or they spend a lot of time in the world of if only. You know, the world that goes like, if only we had more money. If only we had more people. If only we had some young families. They have limited expectations of themselves and of God. If you've ever been a part of the North Bramalea community for even just a short period of time, I hope that you've experienced a community that has let the fear of the if-onlys go. I hope by the end of this service that you will be as awed as I am by about our completely unlimited, loving God is doing through us. And so we're going to begin our journey with a scripture about a journey. In this reading from Matthew, we are a little ahead of Christmas, for Jesus has been born. In fact, we're always ahead in Matthew's gospel, for when it comes to the story of the wise men, we normally have them arriving on Christmas Eve. But in Matthew's gospel, they arrive after Jesus' birth. I could say something about men and directions. But this is about not limiting expectations. So something about the wise men. You know, they're magi, astronomers, astrologists, scientists of their day. And they come from the east, likely in the place that we would call Iran or Iraq today. They've been following a star that they believe signals the birth of a new king, the coming of a new age. And they understand the prophecies have talked about a child being born in Bethlehem. And so they go to Herod, who is the current king of Judea, knowing that, or believing that he would be able to tell them about where this child would be born. The wise men come with their eyes wide open with wonder. And they encounter Herod, who pretends to go along, but fears that a new king will take away his grip and his power over the people. Herod has limited expectations about what God can do. And so I invite you to listen and watch this reading of the scriptures.
Herod was king when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Judea. Some astrologers from the east came to Jerusalem, asking,
"Where is the child, King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him."
When King Herod heard about this, he was worried, and so was everyone else in Jerusalem. Herod got the chief priests and teachers of the law of Moses together and asked them,
"Where will the Messiah be born?"
"He will be born in Bethlehem, just as the prophet wrote. Bethlehem in the land of Judea. You are very important amongst the towns of Judea. From your town will come a leader who will be like a shepherd for my people Israel."
Herod secretly called in the wise men.
"When did you first see the star? Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for him. As soon as you find him, come tell me. I want to go worship him too."
The wise men listened to what the king said and then left. And the star they had seen in the east went on ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. They were thrilled and excited to see the star. When the men went into the house and saw the child with Mary, his mother, they knelt down and worshipped him. They took out their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh and gave them to him. Later, they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod, and they went back home by another road.
A big thank you to Gretel and Max and Rebecca for sharing that scripture with us today. Bill Hybels, the founding pastor of the Willow Creek Community Church just outside of Chicago, has often been quoted as saying, "The local church, when it's working right, is the hope of the world." Do you know what he means by that? When Bill was in college, he encountered a man called Gilbert Bazikian, a lecturer who described those first Christian communities as we can read about them in the second book of Acts in chapter 2. And he said, there once was a community of believers that were so totally devoted to God, they would dare to step out in faith and follow wherever God led. They had a radical love for one another that broke down all the walls that can be built up around gender and economics and status and religion. And they thought of themselves as family, as brothers and sisters, God's family. They were people who prayed bold prayers and expected a strong God to answer them. They were humble and acted with integrity. They learned to demonstrate a concern for people who were outside of the circle of their faith, aligning themselves with the sick and the broken, the poor and the disadvantaged. At the risk of their own lives, they spread the message of good news of Jesus Christ. And they created such a sense of awe and wonder in the people around them that their numbers, the people who said yes to Jesus, yes to God, grew daily. And the word spread. And Bazikian asked his class, where do you see a community like that today. Bill Hybels knew that he had never experienced a community like that, even though he had grown up being a part of faith communities. But he so wanted to. And so with God's help, he set about to build one. We call it a community of everyday, ordinary people who are growing in the way of Jesus and following God out into the community. Why is the local church, us, the hope of the world? Because we have an opportunity to act with that same kind of awe and humility and wonder at the love of our expectation-busting God who chooses to work through communities like ours. And that changes lives. You know, we live in a society that bombards us with messages that say who we are is not enough, that we need to be afraid of neighbors and strangers, that it's a look out for yourself because no one else is going to do it for you world, that if you succeed, you deserve it, and if you fail, you're a loser. In fact, our society is very much like the society that Jesus was born into. Fear and oppression, might versus right, eat or be eaten. And yet, it was into that very time that Jesus was born, turning our expectations of what God can do completely upside down. What kind of community are you looking for? Is there a yearning in your heart to be part of something that needs you, but you don't have to do it alone? Are you looking to be blown away with awe and wonder about that expectation-busting God? Then let me share some stories of God at work among us now. And let me begin with the Caring and Sharing program. This year was our biggest Christmas outreach into the community as we took on the support of 77 families, 113 adults, and 171 children. Start showing some of the pictures of what Caring and Sharing look like. Yeah. And of course, we didn't do it alone. This community continues to be inspired by that expectation-busting God, and that inspires others to participate. Firefighters, office staff saying no to those little presents and presents that they exchanged in Christmas, and instead adopting a family. Tanya Jensen and folks from the Brampton Civic Hospital supporting a family in memory of their colleague and friend Jane Bishop. 4- and 5-year-olds in this church who picked out a present for another child their age, knowing that with them and Christ's love, they could make a difference. And the thanks have already come pouring in. This is just a sampling of them. Someone saying, I am so grateful. The Lord has surely blessed us. This has helped to strengthen my faith in Jesus and people. If you could see me now, I have tears running down my face. Thank you all, and God bless you. Please let everyone know we say thank you for the gifts. The bike is a hit. My son's smile is so big. One of the last-minute families, one of the families that we weren't sure we would be able to help, but in the end were able to help, the woman burst into tears when she received some food cards, gift cards, to be able to buy food for a Christmas dinner. And there were some gifts for under the tree. And more are still coming. I asked Debbie Muma and Mary Jacobs, who with an amazing team, including Allison McCulloch and Nicola Marr and so many others, why do you do that? And Mary, who couldn't be here today, replied, I do it because we need all families in Brampton to feel that someone cares about them, that they can celebrate and enjoy a special time with their children, and we can help them meeting their basic needs of food and clothing. And I've asked Debbie Muma, who has been championing this with Mary and others for the last number of years, to come up. so that we can give her and her team thanks, and Debbie can share why she does this. Oh, yeah.
My mother believed that you should serve with joy. Jesus first, others second, yourself last. And I guess she raised me that way. And way back when I was both a CGIT girl and then a CGIT leader, one of the 4 cornerstones of CGIT mission is to serve others. And so I came into this with a desire to know that I couldn't fix everything in the world, but I could do something for some people in some way. And so as I took on being the CGIT leader, I took on the Caring and Sharing program that had been started by my predecessor. And it blossomed from a half a dozen families to the 77 we did yesterday. And I can't walk away, because it's amazing when they come in and they receive their gifts, and you get their hugs and their tears, and you know you have made a difference in their lives, and especially in their Christmas. And you have spread some of that joy across Brampton. And I guess that's why we do it every year. And more people get involved and get to experience that same sensation of joy as we do things. But that is what caring and sharing is all about. It is that opportunity to act in a way in Brampton, to live the mission of the church, to live the mission of God. Jesus said, "Whoever did it for these of my brethren have done it for me." So it is our way to serve.
Thank you, and God bless you. Caring and Sharing, a program of the local church that brings hope to many families in our corner of God's world. A second story. This week we had the Light of Remembrance service, a service for everyone who is grieving the loss of a loved one. It's one of those services where this community shines Christ's light, literally, in the world. You know, it's hard to watch television or be in a mall and not get this message. Hey, it's Christmas. You got to feel good. Don't bring anyone down. Buy this. Hide your pain and grief in tinsel and a sparkly tree, even if it's a warped tree. Put a smile on your face and let everything and everyone be wonderful. But that's not very real, is it? So instead, we hold a service where we make space for pain and grief by pointing in awe and wonder to Jesus, who knows what pain and grief is about. Jesus, who was nailed to a cross and yet could offer unlimited, forgiving love. Jesus, whom death could not defeat, and in the mystery of our faith rose again and gifted us with his Spirit. Jesus, who in the power of God's love envelops all of us, those we have loved in this life and in the next. In the midst of pain and grief that is real, this community of hope offers some space to say, we're in this with you. We know that you don't have to pretend what Christmas can be about. We know that this one who the Magi knelt before in awe and wonder has the power for even just one moment to turn your pain into peace, to turn your despair into hope. And that's the local church with an expectation-busting God bringing hope to the world. A third story, the Journey Neighborhood Center. You know, in a very short time of just over 2 years, the Journey has become part of the fabric of a neighborhood. We celebrated when that permanent sign was erected over that part of the plaza where the Journey is, a plaza that we're delighted to share with others, including the best chiaroscuro in town. Despite the fears and the if-onlys, the what-ifs, God invited the people of this community to move into the Ardglen neighborhood and share what it means to pray bold prayers and follow God wherever we are led. And today, relying on Jesus' strength, courage, love, and initiative, we all continue to be changed. And the fourth story, our scripture story about the Magi that we heard this morning goes on past what we heard. You know, when the Magi don't go back to Herod and tell him about Jesus, Herod is so angry and so filled with fear that he orders the massacre of all of the children that are 2 years of age and under. He does this so that no future king could ever take away his power. But Herod limited what God could do. And Joseph receives a dream, and he and his family head off to Egypt, a refugee family, finding shelter and support. This year, we've been led to sponsor another refugee family. Our team has been formed, connections have been made, paperwork has been prepared and is being submitted. And in 6 to 8 weeks, or even less, we will welcome a family who has been living in a refugee camp. And we will offer them hope and love and support, because that's what we in this local church do. And churches